So we're talking about miserable conditions in terms of just preserving life in Gaza before October 7th. And this was the case. And we saw in 2009, there was a military operation by the Israelis, 2012, 2014, 2021. I mean, we were seeing the aftermath of the Israeli military just decimate parts of Gaza. Of course, nothing has been on the scale of what's happened since October 7th. But before then, it was not like, oh, there was a place that was living and prospering and everybody was doing fine. We were
Right.
talking about a blockade on life in Gaza.
Yeah. And this goes all the way back to 2006. Honestly, I'll be very honest. I knew nothing about Gaza until maybe October 8th, 2023. I really didn't even know anything about it. And then when that attack happened, that's when I was like, oh, wow, yeah, that doesn't seem good. Why did they do that? And then from there, obviously, my education process has taken place where I've really tried to understand, what is going on in this region. Prior to this, I think my only experience with it was the TV show Fauda on Netflix. And I will tell you, I've gone back and watched that show now, and I can barely get through it because I know the truth versus what they've displayed on there. But try to connect the dots with a lot of this stuff. And so one of the things I always hear the Israeli side talking about is how in 2005, we left Gaza. We took all the Israeli settlers out of Gaza and we gave them Gaza. And then when I was like, okay, well, what does that mean? When I researched it, that all that means is in 2005, they removed 8,500 settlers out of a population of, I believe, 2.5 million. So you had 2.4999 million Palestinians now. And then with the Israelis out of Gaza, that's when the siege started. That's when this concept of really turning it into an open air prison, based on my research, that's when that started. So then I'm like, oh my God. So that's what they did. They took their people out and then they turned it into this open air prison. Did I connect those dots properly?
That's exactly right. I mean, at the time, the prime minister was Ariel Sharon, who was a part of the Likud party that Netanyahu is a part of. And this is a very right wing party that wants to take
Yeah.
a hardline stance. And so the decision was not made in an effort to bring peace. The decision was made to remove the 8,000 Israeli settlers, and the population was just under 2 million at the time. But they removed 8,000 settlers, and then they imposed the siege that you're talking about. And this was already there was concerns about the actions of Ariel Sharon. He basically precipitated the second intifada in 2001, 2000 actually, when he visited Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. So already the way Likud views the idea of a peace process is one that includes a tremendous amount of violence. I mean, so somebody making a decision like this is not doing it in the best interest of Palestinians and the idea that a future Palestinian state can be accomplished. There's something more nefarious at play here. And if you look at how the blockade was imposed immediately on Palestinians, we're talking about Israeli ministers saying things like, we're going to be putting the people of Gaza on a strict diet. At one point early in this siege, Ray, just to show you the ludicrous nature of this, that there was no effort towards peace, they were blocking potato chips from entering into Gaza. That was on a prohibited item list. And this is how detailed, nuanced, and intentional the blockade of Gaza was. And it was really hard to get in. I mean, it was a miserable process to get in from back then. This is this idea that, Gaza could have been this paradise and, the Palestinians chose this path that they're on now. And we're talking about Ariel Sharon here. We're talking about one of the most violent leaders in Israeli history. This is a guy that chooses violence always.
Yeah. I don't think people realize, we think Netanyahu's bad. I don't think people realize how bad Ariel Sharon was. And then, just random question. Do you know much about like when Yitzhak Rabin was in power for Israel and then Yasser Arafat was running, I believe, the PLO, and then they wanted to actually make a peace deal? It seemed, based on, again, I haven't deep dived into this, but based on my initial research, it seemed like those two guys actually were like, okay, you know what? Let's figure this out and let's put the past behind us and let's try and make this work.
Want the full truth? Watch the full Deep Shallow Dive interview next. And hit subscribe if you're done with narratives and ready to call a spade a spade.